Well, hello again, everybody. This is another edition of Demko Modelworks. Jake here with you. This will be part 2 of our 1/72nd scale artillery Spartan project. Today we're going to be going through and kind of looking at some of the things that some of the tips and tricks that I can, that you can do. I've already gone through and started doing some of the work on this, and let me show you some of one of the tips that you can do for your build here. Let me tighten up on the shot here, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it very well or not, but most of the instructions come with a paint guide. And so what I've done is something that you can do to help save time and make sure you get everything right, is go back through and find all your colors that are going to be painted in your model, and you can go through, and instead of having to go back through here, flip and then go back and then flip and then go back, what I do is I go through and start writing down all the colors that I'm going to need for this particular section. That way I don't have to lose my place in where I'm going and then flipping here and then going back over to here. So that's just one of the things that I do on some of the models like this. Now, like on a lot of the Star Trek models that I do, I don't worry about doing that because I pretty much know all the colors by heart now. But on new model kits like this, and on cars and planes and stuff like that, I would suggest doing that. That way you don't, you know what color it is. That way you don't lose your place, and that way you can keep it your instruction guide at one spot. So some of the things that I've done already is I've gone through and cleaned all my parts. I've gone through and primed them. And I've already started working on just a little bit, just to kind of show you here. This is the cockpit, and I've already started. If you can see, I don't know if you're going to be able to see or not here, but right in here is an instrument panel, and I've gone through, and it calls for some of these boxes to be black, and I just did a kind of a what we call a dry brush on here. Is I dipped my paintbrush in some white and just lightly went over across these knobs. That way it kind of gives it to stand out. Now the tricky part is on this is I'm going to put a small piece of tape over top of this, because this the cockpit, part of this cockpit is called for a light gray. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm sorry. This is dark gray, and we're going to, this is going to be light gray. And so I kind of jumped the gun on myself there, but I'm still thinking about maybe just leaving it like this. But I'm still thinking on that. So, but one of the other things that I was going to tell you guys is, and a lot of the ones that are new and all that kind of stuff that haven't really built before, you always want to make sure on your glue joints that your glue joints are clean and free of paint and debris and stuff. That way when you use your glue, it makes a good bond, because you don't want to paint it all, put it together, and then parts start falling off because it's not a good bond. So, and if many of you are asking what type of glue I use several different types, but mostly I'll use this this Tester's red tube glue, basically because, I mean, it's some of you may think that, well, this is old school, but this is probably one of the best glues out there. And there's different ones, like this Model Masters. Now they've discontinued this, so you won't be able to find this one anymore, but they have another one just like this, which is basically this and this. But then they have some of the ones that have the Mr. Surfacer, that has the brush on it. I'm not too particular on those because I've found that it just doesn't have that good of a bond to the plastic. But then again, that's just me. That's my opinion. But my personal opinion is this Tester's red tube glue. It lasts, you know, it lasts a long time, and it really has a good bond when you have a good clean surface to glue to. Now, like this piece right here, when you glued it to this part, I went through and cleaned with just a little bit of acetone, toned down with a little bit of water, so it's not so caustic or abrasive to the plastic to where it'll melt it, but just enough to where it'll clean. And or you can use your hobby knife to scrape the edges off. And in some cases, there are trenches on this back piece here that these walls set on, and you could just lightly take, like say for instance right here, there's going to be pieces that set right here, the chairs and then the instrument panel. Well, what you do is you just lightly scrape those, scrape the paint off with maybe like a pick or your hobby knife or something to that effect. So but anyway, we're going to get into doing just a little bit more on the model now. We have, you know, like I said, we've primed pretty much. We're going to be basically working on the cockpit, and so we're going to put that aside, actually, because let's see here. We're going to get into looking at our instructions, and I pretty much got all this together. I just need to glue this piece here, so let me locate this piece here, which is this piece right here. And another thing that you want to do is get a good set of where you are, there you are, a good set of snips. These plastic snips, man, these things are good for cutting the little tabs, you know, really closely on these parts. It's good for cutting sprue, and I've had these for a while now, and I've yet to have any problems with them. So we're gonna put that on, cut that off real good if I can get my part out there. And then something I always do, even though that these may cut real nice, they're not always going to get it cut real close. So I'm going to put this, you know, scrape that, a little bit of that sprue tab off. That way it sits on there nice, and that way when we put it on, which I didn't see this, but it goes into this spot right here. So we're gonna clean this side off. I've already got it to where I'm not gonna be able to get a good clean on it, but I'm just gonna lightly take my hobby knife and just lightly scrape this paint off all the way around where it's gonna touch, and this will at least give it a good bond. May not be the greatest, but it's not gonna be a part that's load bearing or anything. So that's the thing is you're going to want to remember is when you have your glue joints and stuff, you're going to want your glue joints, like basically when you glue the halves together for like a nacelle or the secondary hull of a ship, you're going to want those joints clean. So now what I'm going to do, since this is a very small part, I'm not going to use my big glue. I'm going to use something with a fine tip applicator, which is something I'm going to miss with this this Model Master here. They may bring it back, I don't know, but just enough to get in the hole. And I'm going to put just a little bit on here. And then I'm going to have to probably take my tweezers and slide it in here. Alright. There, slid really nice in place. Just kind of give it a little bit of a push. Okay, well there's that. So, that's in place now, so we're going to go back to our instruction sheet. And as like I said, as you can see, pretty much all this is done. Now it just calls for these instrument panels to be black, and then that instrument panel to be black as well. So we're going to go ahead and paint this, and for these I'm not going to do any airbrushing. I'm just going to be using a very fine tipped paintbrush. Get my cleaner here. And I like using the Tamiya paints. They're pretty good. I'll use pretty much any of them. So all right, so here we go. And just remember, you don't have to glob your paint on your paintbrush, and you want it just lightly touch. The surface. I'm gonna go through on this side real quick and just kind of straighten my line out just a little bit. And I'm not worried too much about this side because this is going to be pressed up against the outer bulkhead of the airplane, so we're not going to worry about too much on the outside. Alright, we got down. Now we're going to do this back panel right here, which calls for black, which is going to be kind of tricky. That's why sometimes you need to paint these things before you put them in. Alright, and again, it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. This is just a model, and about 90% of this is not going to be visible anyway, but I like to take my time on it anyway, just to be on the safe side. And I'm going to I'm gonna paint this black, I think. Don't know what this little thing is here, but I just feel it should be black, just to give it some color. Make sure y'all are in shot there. Alright, and we'll hit the bottom real quick. Okay, there's that. So, and again, guys, the rule of thumb here with these kind of kits and stuff like that, when you're doing these small parts, you don't have to like glob your paintbrush all the way down inside. You don't have to get the entire all the brushes completely soaked with paint. You just want the tips. That way you don't have paint run and all that. So okay, so there's that on that. So now we're going to be moving on to the chairs and the instrument panel. So now we're going to be flipping over to our second set of instructions here. And again, here we have the sprue C and Let's see. Which one's C? We have 2 C's here. So yeah, because we have 2 chairs on either side. So these are going to call for olive drab. So which we have our paint here, which is a Tester's acrylic, which is, there's nothing wrong with good old Testers because they've been around forever. So our main chair calls for olive drab, and then our armrests call for black. So the same thing we're going to do with the instrument panel on top is paint it black, and then we'll have our then we can move on to our instrument panel. So let's get that out. And again, guys, you want to make sure that when you get these paints and stuff, you want to make sure you shake them up really well or stir them, because you know, if they set for a long time, they're going to. And I just like taking a toothpick on some of these little old these little bottles of Testers. You don't really need anything fancy. Get in there and stir it up really well. It's been sitting for a while. I haven't really used it in a while, so it kind of all settled to the bottom. And again, guys, most of the time I use my airbrush to paint my parts and stuff, but with these little parts and stuff like that on these little models and stuff like that, and what I'll do is after this I will close it back up and give it a good shake once I got the sediment and everything shook up, you know, stirred up. But most of the time on these little airplanes and stuff like that, you want to use a paintbrush and not an airbrush, because there's not enough room, or the parts are too small for that. So I'm going to use a kind of a medium brush for this. And so here's our chair. So we're just going to take it and just kind of gently try not to again glob it on. You don't need to glob it on, you know, too heavily. Sorry guys, I realized my fingers were in the way, so you couldn't really see. There it is. Alright, now we're going to do the bottom chair, which is pretty much just the seat. It's going to be olive drab, because pretty much that's just the cushion. Alright, now we'll let that one dry for a few minutes, and we'll go move on to the next chair. And guys, keep in mind too, if there's anything that you want to see, you have any questions, or you want to see, see done, let me know. And you can leave me a comment, down in the comment section there, to ask, and I'll put up my email address, and you can email me there at the end of the video. That way, I can answer your questions. Feel free to ask. Whoops, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was not in shot. Again, guys, I apologize for that. Okay, again, we're just barely lightly grabbing the side over here. simply for the fact that there is, you know, you have your cushion in the back chair here. So it doesn't say to do the whole chair. Yeah, it just says like on the sides down here on the lower sections, right in here, this is all black. So we're gonna let that dry on this side, and then we're gonna go to the other, back to the other chair and paint that black. I know, guys, this is not my normal videos, but I like to try to keep things mixed up. So go back to we'll keep continuing to use this little brush right here, and we'll just paint just nice even strokes here. Let me make sure I'm in shot for you. I'll just gently. Then sometimes you're going to have to probably do a couple of coats. On these pieces. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate with paint very well, so you have to do a couple of coats. Normally what I'll do is I'll go through first and get all my I'll go through first and paint everything one color, and then once I've got it all painted, I'll go back through and do my detail painting. So we'll paint. Get some more paint. And again, guys, this is going to be down inside the plane, so you're not going to really see inside here unless you're just wanting to you know, to paint it just because. But it's going to be inside, and here are the armrests for these. And these are black, so I'm going to go ahead and paint these. But we're not going to do too much of too long of a video, guys. I don't want to bore you. Just kind of showing you some of the things that I do. Okay. And then we have our yokes, which here are going to be the handle parts of them are going to be black. So we have a couple of little bitty tabs here on either side of this joystick or yoke. We'll just cut that off real quick. Okay. Now pretty much all this, just the black, is going to be painted, is just going to be black, just the handle, because this part, the shaft of the yoke, is going to be like a medium gray. We're just lightly touching this, just enough to get it covered. Okay. All right. So you can see there. Well, I can find it here for you in the shot here, which is right here. If it'll focus on me, you can see. Let me see if I can get it to focus. It's right there is the yoke, and I just painted just the grips black, and we're gonna paint this other stuff, this other part of it a dark medium gray. So Okay. But we'll go through here, we'll explain. I'll go ahead and let these dry, and we'll go through here and kind of explain the process for the next, for the next round. Let me back you out here just a little bit. Okay, so right here you can see it's pretty much all self-explanatory. Now on this one, we're not going to have the back door open, so we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it closed, which is going to be the way it is here. This ramp here, this is showing to cut it off. If you're this one here is showing to cut it off if you're gonna have it open. So that's going to be our next step. And between now and then, I'll have a little more done. Just to probably have an update video on it. And like I said, I'm not going to go too wild in these videos because this is pretty much self-explanatory. A lot of the builders out there built this stuff, and I'm just kind of doing this to kind of get a break from doing the Star Trek stuff and kind of changing things up a little bit here on the channel. But we'll go through and do a few more details on this, and kind of go through some of the process. I know I'll be going through and doing showing you how I laid down the decals, and once I get it pretty much all together, we'll be going through and doing it a decal a segment on the decals, and a segment on I'll go through and do a segment on how I do my putty work and all that kind of stuff. So we'll go into detail on a lot of that, but pretty much all this other stuff is just self-explanatory on this. So we're not gonna, like I said, we're not gonna get too crazy with these videos on this, just to kind of change up a little bit. But oops, knocked over my paintbrushes there. But anyway, guys, like I said the other day, got several other things coming down the line. Once I get through with this one, I'll probably switch back to a Star Trek build. I'm still trying to get some of these refits out and everything like that, so I apologize, guys, if there's a space in between the videos here. So, but okay, guys, well, that's gonna be it for this video. We're gonna sign off here and let these things dry, and we'll come back with an update video for you with a little bit more done, and go from there, guys. So until then, guys, take care, stay safe, and happy modeling, everybody.